Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at the ultimate guide to vacuum circuit breaker, or VCB maintenance. You know, VCBs are kind of the unsung heroes of our modern electrical infrastructure. They're just sitting there, silently protecting multi-million-dollar equipment and keeping our critical power grids completely stable. Understanding how to properly maintain them, well, it's absolutely essential for anyone working with medium-voltage systems. Okay, let's dive into this.
Here is our incredibly quick roadmap for today. Number 1, what is a VCB? Number 2, components and operation. 3, advantages and applications. 4, safety first. 5, the maintenance procedure itself. And finally, number 6, troubleshooting and frequency. Let's just jump right in.
All right, section 1. What is a VCB?
Let's kick things off by establishing our foundational concepts. So, by definition, a vacuum circuit breaker is a medium-voltage circuit breaker that uses a vacuum interrupter to extinguish the electric arc formed when interrupting current. The real magic here, the whole secret sauce, is the vacuum itself. Because there's literally no air or gas inside that interrupter, the arc extinguishes incredibly rapidly. That rapid quenching is the genius behind its high reliability. It's exactly why this thing requires relatively little maintenance compared to older, clunkier technologies.
Section 2. Components and operation.
Now that we know what it is, let's pop the hood and look at the anatomy of this incredible piece of engineering. To really wrap your head around a VCB, you can logically chunk its main components into 3 distinct parts. First up, you have the vacuum interrupter itself, which houses the fixed and moving contacts. Second is the operating mechanism. Think of this as the mechanical muscle. This includes your closing and opening springs, plus the main shaft. And third, we have the control elements. This is the brain of the operation, featuring the trip and closing coils, the auxiliary switch, and your safety interlocking mechanisms. Every single one of these has to work together perfectly as a unified system.
So let's see how this all builds into an actual action sequence. Picture this. When the breaker needs to open, step 1, it receives a trip command. Step 2, the operating mechanism forcefully separates the moving and fixed contacts. Step 3, an intense electrical arc forms momentarily between them. Step 4, because there is almost no gas to sustain that arc inside the vacuum, it gets extinguished at the exact next current 0. And finally, step 5, the insulation strength recovers rapidly, which completely prevents the arc from reigniting. Honestly, it happens faster than you can blink.
Section 3. Advantages and applications.
So, where do we actually use this technology, and why is it the go-to choice? Well, the value proposition of a VCB is just massive. They offer excellent arc quenching, a super long service life, and incredibly high dielectric strength. But beyond all of that, they are completely 100% free of oil or SF6 gas. And this brilliantly illustrates the environmental and operational edge of the VCB. You're getting blindingly fast operating speeds suitable for frequent switching, all packed into a really compact, environmentally friendly design.
Because of that rock-solid reliability, major industries rely on them heavily. I mean, these breakers are handling voltage levels from 3.3 kilovolts all the way up to 36 kilovolts. You are going to find them in the absolute most demanding environments out there. We're talking nuclear power plants, massive electrical substations, heavy industrial setups like cement factories and steel mills, large commercial buildings, and of course, modern renewable energy systems.
Section 4. Safety first.
Okay, we need to dramatically shift our tone here before we discuss how to actually maintain these machines. We are dealing with high-stakes, life-saving procedures right now, and there is absolutely zero room for error. First, you must always obtain a work permit and strictly follow Lockout/Tagout or LOTO procedures. You totally isolate the breaker from all power sources. If it's a withdrawable unit, you rack it out. You absolutely must discharge any stored spring energy before working. Those mechanical springs hold a terrifying amount of force. And finally, gear up. Wear the appropriate PPE, including arc-rated clothing, insulated gloves, a safety helmet, and safety glasses. Skipping even a single step here can be catastrophic.
I want to read this quote directly from the safety guidelines because, frankly, it is the golden rule of VCB maintenance. Always isolate the breaker from all power sources and confirm absence of voltage using an approved tester. Listen, never, ever assume a breaker is dead just based on a switch position. Always test it. Always.
Section 5. The maintenance procedure.
All right, with our safety protocols completely locked in, let's guide you through the actual work. What we have here is a highly structured, 12-step preventative maintenance blueprint. We can group the first half of this procedure into Phase 1, which is visual and mechanical. This covers steps 1 through 6. You start with a rigorous visual inspection, looking for any dust, cracks, or rust, followed by a dry cleaning. And remember, absolutely no water or aggressive solvents here. Next, check the mechanical operation by by manually operating the breaker a few times. Then you inspect the vacuum interrupter itself and measure contact wear. This is absolutely vital because a vacuum interrupter cannot generally be repaired. If it loses its vacuum integrity, it's done. It must be completely replaced. Finally, we finish phase 1 with some targeted lubrication.
But please, pay super close attention to this warning from step 6. You are only supposed to lubricate specified mechanical parts. Think main shaft bearings, hinges, rollers. Do not lubricate vacuum interrupter contacts, insulation surfaces, or electrical contact faces unless you are explicitly instructed to do so. So, the crucial point is, applying grease where it doesn't belong will actively compromise the insulation or the electrical connections, which will directly cause equipment failure.
Moving right along, we enter phase 2, electrical and final checks, covering steps 7 through 12. This is exactly where we confirm all of our mechanical work with hard, undeniable electrical data. We begin with a tightness check of all terminals using a calibrated torque wrench, followed by a thorough inspection of the insulators and bushings. Then we get into our electrical testing. After that's wrapped up, we inspect the charging motor and auxiliary contacts. And we bring it all home with a final functional test, basically cycling the breaker through several complete close, open, close operations. This ensures the manual, electrical, and control circuits are all perfectly aligned.
Let's do a quick deep dive into step 9, the electrical testing, because it's so important. A proper maintenance program absolutely requires measuring insulation resistance, typically with a megometer. You also need a contact resistance test using a micrometer. Keep in mind, high contact resistance is a massive red flag. It almost always indicates worn contacts or loose connections. You're also going to run a timing test to verify those opening and closing speeds are strictly within manufacturer tolerances, plus a coil resistance test for your trip and closing coils, and a functional verification of all your safety interlocks and anti-pumping features.
Section 6, Troubleshooting and Frequency.
Transitioning to our final segment today, let's look at your quick reference guide for diagnostics and maintenance scheduling. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how neatly the symptoms map to very specific mechanical or electrical fixes. If your breaker fails to close, boom, you immediately look at your charging motor, your spring, or the closing coil. Fails to trip? Start testing your trip coil, the protection relay, or hunt for mechanical binding. Like we mentioned earlier, high resistance points straight to worn contacts or loose terminals. And if the operating time is excessive, well, you almost certainly have a dry linkage or a worn mechanism that's begging to be cleaned and lubricated.
So, what is the actual recommended frequency for all this work? Simple. Visual inspections should be done monthly. Cleaning and mechanical operation checks, put those on the calendar for every 6 months. Lubrication, contact resistance, insulation resistance, and timing tests, those are an annual activity. Finally, a complete top-to-bottom preventative maintenance cycle should be performed every 1 to 3 years, totally depending on your service conditions. The absolute best practice here is to record all of your inspection results and test values for trend analysis. Having that data allows you to proactively replace worn components long before they ever have a chance to fail.
Which brings us right to our final thought. The manual repeatedly emphasizes keeping switchgear rooms clean, dry, and well ventilated as a baseline best practice. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder. Are your switchgear rooms clean, dry, and truly ready for your next VCB inspection? Because honestly, a well-maintained environment is the very first step to a well-maintained breaker. Thanks so much for diving into this incredibly vital engineering topic with us today, and we will see you on the next explainer.
Always isolate the power source before starting maintenance. Inspect contacts and clean insulation to ensure operation. Proper maintenance improves safety and reliability.